Hey everybody! Back in July, Rudy with TRW had done a webinar on how to create a rhinestone design of an American flag using CorelDraw and the TRW Design Wizard. If you missed it and want to go back and watch it, I'll put a link in the description below. So after watching the video, the first thing I did was create this awesome US flag design. And since I'm from Texas, I created one of the Texas flag as well. After I created these flags, I thought, what can I do to make these even more awesome? Well, the first thing I wanted to do was add the word America in an arch shape across the top of the flag. So the first thing I did was grab my text tool and I typed out the word America. Then I grabbed my selection tool and just made that text bigger. And I decided I was going to use a Rhinestone font to go with my Rhinestone flag. So I came over to the Design Wizard and I chose the TRW 630 1.6 inch font. And since I wanted it to have a little bit of an arch, I grabbed my ellipse tool and then I created an oval to form the arch shape that I wanted for my letters. So I got it kind of where I wanted it. Got a little bit of an arch. Got it centered where I wanted it. So I selected my text and I came over here to the TRW toolbar and clicked on Fit Text to Path. And if you don't have this toolbar, you can always go to Text, come down to where it says Fit Text to Path and click on that. And then all you have to do is move this over to the line you want to connect it to. I want it centered, so when I get that little red line in the middle, I'm going to click and attach that to the oval shape. Now I can see my font is just a little bit big, so I'm going to come up here, I'm going to size it down just a little bit more. 160, that looks about right. I'm actually going to change this to the 2-inch version of the 630 because the 1.6 inch version was going to not be quite big enough. And I can see that this size rhinestone is closer to the size of the rhinestones in my flag, which are SS10s. So I'm going to right click on this, convert to curves. I'm going to click on this oval and delete it because I'm done with that. Now I want to make sure the circles that make up my letters are SS10 size circles. So the first thing we're going to do is right click on the text, come down here to ungroup all objects. Then we'll click on this and you'll see that 3 of the letters are selected. We're going to right click, break the curve apart. Then we're going to click on the next letter and you'll see that the other 4 letters are joined together. So we'll right click, break the curve apart. Now if we click on one of the circles, we can see that it's 0.133, which is just a little bit bigger than an SS10. So we can just select this. Then we'll come over to the Design Wizard and we'll make sure this is set to SS10 rhinestones, and you'll see it's 0.13. And then we can click this little button right here that says replace all stones selected with the size chosen. So once we click this button, it's going to change all of these rhinestone circles from 0.133 to just 0.13. So we'll click it, changes them all. Now when we check the size, 0.13. So now we know those are the size of the SS10 rhinestones, which match the rhinestones in the flag, which are 0.13. Now if you click this button and nothing happens, if these don't change to the right size, then you may need to go back and designate a color for those circles. Now let me show you what I'm talking about. I created this little grid. So if we select one of these circles, you'll see that it's 0.3. And we want to change all of those to 0.13. So if we select all those and we click replace all stones selected with the size chosen, when we click that button, you'll see that nothing happened. That in fact they're still 0.3 instead of 0.13. So if that ever happens to you, just select all of your rhinestones and make sure you have a color. If they are colored and they don't change, maybe just change the color to something else. And it shouldn't matter if you pick a rhinestone color, a HTV color, or just some random color out of your color palette. As long as it has a fill color, it should work. This seems to only give you a problem if there's only a stroke and no fill, or if it has like some weird color fill. You might just have to change the color to something else. So once we change this color to something else, and click the resize button, then they all resize the way they should. And you should probably go ahead and get rid of the stroke that was on there so you just have a solid colored circle. Now you can see instead of being 0.3, they're all 0.13, which are SS10s. I just thought I'd throw that in there in case you ever run across that problem where you can't get the circles to resize. It seems that if it just has a stroke on it, it won't resize them. So you may try to take the stroke off and change the color and it should work. So let's get back to our flag design. So after I added America, I wanted to add some text along the bottom. So I grabbed my text tool again, clicked down here, typed out "the beautiful." And this time I wanted to use a kind of a scripty font. So I came and I chose this one and I scaled it up to the size I wanted it to be. Then again, I right clicked on the text, converted that to curves. Then I right clicked on it to ungroup it. Clicked on this section to break it apart. Clicked on the next section, broke that apart. And then I checked to see what size my rhinestones were, and they were 0.138, which is a little bit bigger than an SS10. So I'm going to scale this down just a little bit, and I'm going to scoot that over, tighten that spacing up a little bit. Then I'm going to select it all, and I'm going to center it. And now I'm going to come back over here to my replace with selected size and click on that to make sure that those are all exactly SS10 size. So now I have my text the way I want it. I have America with a slight arch, and I have the beautiful and a script below, both in SS10. And while we're talking about rhinestone fonts, I want to show you a way to resize your text using the Design Wizard. If you're using a rhinestone font and get it sized the way you want it, and change the rhinestones to the size you want to say SS10s, and there are too many or too few rhinestones in the letter, there's an easy way to fix that. It might take you a few minutes to do, but once you get the graphic created, it's yours forever and you can reuse it over and over. Also keep in mind that this may not work in every situation. You may still have to manually adjust your design. But let's say you want to use this exact design, but the Texas needs to be 9 inches wide instead of 6. So you enlarge the graphic to 9 inches. Now your stone size is way bigger than SS10. So you come to the wizard and click replace with selected size. Now the circles are the right size, they're SS10s, but now the spacing is way off. By using the respace feature of the wizard, we can quickly add more stones to fill in the gaps. So what we can do is grab these 2 stones and move them up. Grab these 2, move them down. Then we can select this whole row, come back to the wizard. We can come over here to respace. And once we hit the respace button, we can add a few rhinestones. Then we can remove that path, and now that looks a lot better. We can do the same thing here. We can select this whole row, hit the respace, add 3 more rhinestones, remove the path, and now that's a lot better. That's a lot fuller. Even here we can select these, hit respace, add a rhinestone, remove the path. On this side we can do the same thing, respace, add a rhinestone, remove the path. And then for this part we can just grab our Bezier pen and we can click right in the center of each one of these. And we'll create a path, and once we do that we can hit the respace button, and then we can add a few more rhinestones to fill that in. Then we can remove the path. So now you can see just in a couple of minutes we've added more stones to this letter, so it's a lot fuller. So you can see with just a little bit of work you can fix these letters so there's not so much space in between. Even the diagonal ones here on the X, we can click the 2-point line, click the center here, drag down to the center here, click on respace, add a few rhinestones, remove the path, and then you can see that's a lot fuller, and you could do it for each of these letters and get them looking the way you want them to look. So that way if you have a certain font you want to use, you can customize it and make it however big you want it to be for your design. And once you get used to using the respace feature in the wizard, it'll go pretty fast. So, you know, even if it took you 5 or 10 minutes to do this, once you had it done, you could just save the graphic and reuse it anytime you wanted. You wouldn't have to recreate this again. So I just wanted to kind of show you how to fix your font. And let's say you had this text, the made in text. Right now it's a little over 7 inches. And if we reduce that down to say 6 inches, and you can see when you reduce it down, it makes the rhinestone smaller. So if you leave that selected, make sure this is set to SS10s, click the replace button. Now you'll see that they overlap each other. So we could kind of do the same thing like we did before, just kind of in reverse. We could just grab this 2-point line tool, click the center here, drag down to the center here, hit the respace, and then just take out a couple of rhinestones to make it fit. And you might have to move this bottom one up a little bit to begin with, and then just respace those again. And there you have it. Again, we could just move this one up a couple of spaces, select this whole row, respace, take a couple of rhinestones out, remove the path, and we're done. Now we've got the SS10s. We've just made the font a little bit smaller, and like I said, it may take a little bit of work to get this done, but once it's done, then you can reuse it over and over and not have to keep recreating this every time. So anyway, that's just a little bit of how to manipulate some fonts, some rhinestone fonts if you need to, make them bigger or smaller. Okay, so back to the flag. The other thing I wanted to do was make the flag look like it was waving. So what I did is I selected the flag, choose the envelope tool. With this selected, you want to click add new, and then click on this one here, the very last one that has the little node on it. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is make a copy of this because I want to show you 2 different ways to do this. So with our envelope tool selected, we'll click on this. On this side we'll click and drag up, and this side we'll click and drag down. Get that little wave going. And on this side we want to drag this bottom part up, drag this bottom part down. Now we kind of have a wave effect, but it's still a little too symmetrical, so I want to kind of mess with it a little more. So I'm going to select these 2 middle points here, and I'm going to delete those. Now what I want to do is click on this node here. I want to drag that in a little bit. This one, I'm going to drag it out a little bit. And then I want to just make that curve in some. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to drag this out a little, drag this under a little, and then just get that little, kind of a little curve going there. You can even drag that down a little bit, kind of get it to look in the way you want it to look. So that looks pretty good to me. I got the wave, I got it, you know, kind of curved in like the wind's flapping it around. But now if we zoom in, you can see that my ovals, you can see that my circles are no longer circles, they're ovals. So we need to come over here to the wizard, select the flag with the selection tool, and make sure this is set to SS10s. Click on the replace stones with selected size button, and there, it replaces all of our stones back to circles, and we still have the waving flag, but now we have perfect SS10 circles. So now we can get our text, we'll group that together, and we can put that here where we want it, and we've got this text here, we'll group that together, and now we got that there where we want it. And so that's pretty much it, you know. We added some text, we added a wave to the flag, we added some cursive text at the bottom. So that's one way we can customize the flag and everything. Another thing we can do to the flag is using the envelope tool. We'll add a new one, make sure that little node is selected. But this time what we're going to do is we're going to click about halfway between here and the middle. Just double click and add a point. We'll come here, double click and add a point, down here, add a point, and then down here, we'll add a point. So we're going to kind of do the same thing, but instead of just having one big wave, with these extra points, we can kind of give it a double wave like that. And then we can move these up, move that one down, that one up a little bit. Then we can adjust these handles a little bit to get the curve. Can move that in a little, move this out a little, delete those 2 center points again. kind of curve that in a little bit. We'll bring that in some, bring this one out some, curve it in a little. Just these little handles, so it's a little smoother transition there. Now we've got kind of a double wave. So if you want a kind of a double wave or a single wave, you can do it either way. And then when we get that the way we want it, we can come back over here and replace these and make them all circles again. There we go. Now we've got all the circles and we've got a different kind of wave to the flag. Then we can do one more over here. We can do this one kind of like we did that one, but if you wanted to make it wave the opposite direction, we just drag this part down and that part up. And then drag this part down and that part up. Well, maybe not so much. Anyway, and we can kind of create the opposite, wave in the opposite way. Delete those 2 points in the middle again. Anyway, you can just kind of make it wave however you want it to wave, this way or that way. And if you need the flag to go the complete opposite way, you always just select it, group it back together, drag it down, right click, make a copy of it, come up here, flip it. Now you have one going one way and one going the other way. So there's some different ways you can make the flag. And then here's one that I did earlier. I did the America, the beautiful, and then with the wave, and I simulated the rhinestones. So that was the one I created originally. And then, like I said, I created a Texas flag, and I did it the same way. I made it wave, and across the bottom I just put Texas, and instead of using rhinestones, I just used HTV vinyl and came up with this. So here are the two original designs that I created. One with the rhinestone text and one with the HTV text. And if you wanted to make this design smaller for a smaller shirt, you could just select it, come over here and choose SS6s and tell it to resize the design according to the stone size, and it would shrink your whole design down and make these SS6s instead of SS10s. And you could always change this back to SS10s, resize it again, and now you're back to the original size. Another thing you could do with these flags is if you are wanting to make a design for a child, instead of using rhinestones, you could size this down to fit on a child's shirt, and instead of cutting a template for rhinestones, you could just cut this out of a foil or HTV and just kind of do a baby bling effect instead of using rhinestones on a kid's shirt. So anyway, that's kind of what I did. Kind of customized the flags. I just wanted to kind of share that with y'all, and maybe I could help y'all out with customizing your designs. And if any of y'all are interested in a copy of these flags, I'll put a link in the description below where you can download the Texas flag and the US flag, and I'll put a copy of the straight flags, and then I'll put a copy of the waving flags too, and you're welcome to use them whatever you want to use them for. And if you do use them in a project, you can just come back to our group page and post a picture and show us what you did and how you used the flags in your design. So I guess that's about it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. Remember to check the description below for a link to Rudy's webinar on how to create the flag, and also for a link to download these flag designs. If you have questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you want to see more design videos like this, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you later.